Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer. I'm right over there coming to you via the phone is John, our resident Gen Xer. John, you're,
I'm the millennial, you motherfucker.
yeah, whatever,
Dare you?
resident millennial.
Dare you? I will sue you for libel and slander.
Sorry,
You fucking piece of shit.
I'm in grandchild mode right now. Just got through doing bath time and, you know,
I'm familiar with the routine.
bedtime and story time and all that. So,
Yep.
if I have to get up and go for a minute, it's just to check on her and that kind of thing. John, you can run with the
Sure.
show. You can
Yeah,
probably
for
figure out
sure.
something to say. I see Wyatt in the chat with us. Uh,
Yeah, and
he's
I want to say at the top of this, unfortunately, I cannot see the chat because I am on mobile. So I will not be able to see and respond to what you guys are saying unless Robert tells me. So I have to trust him, which is unfortunate, but
Please
there
feel
it
free
is.
to say whatever you would like in the chat, and I'll make sure and pass along to John anything relevant or pertinent to
Yeah.
him. Good to see you tonight, Elephant Man in the house over on D Live. Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, so how you're out of town, John? You vacationing? What's going on?
Yeah. It's not a secret because I mentioned on Ed's show yesterday. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida, until Friday, so I'll be back in my normal studio with air quotes Friday night. But for now, yeah, I'm out here
What are
in
you
St.
doing?
Petersburg.
Why are
Just
you
on
out there?
vacation, just on vacation with my girlfriend.
Vacation.
Have some, yeah,
Is
having
isn't
some like alone time with us.
isn't that what people with a job do?
Bitch, I have jobs. Fuck you.
Yeah, and, hey, how's that been working out for you? You started
It's
doing a
actually
little.
been really, yeah, it's actually been really good. I've made, I took like those little jobs, like $5 at a time jobs, but I've been getting really good feedback. So hopefully that'll build to better jobs in the future. But my head's above water, so I'm happy.
Yeah, so in case anybody didn't know, John is, after losing his job previously, you've decided to get on the Upwork platform that I've talked about for years that I've been on
Yeah,
to work from home, and it's actually it
way
seems to be a
better.
little rewarding, doesn't it?
I'm not making nearly as much money at the
Yet,
moment, but I don't have a commute. I'm not having to, yeah, it's way better. And I'm not working, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day or in the middle of the night, things stupid like that. It's, 2, 3 hours of work a day, and I'm getting paid. So I'm happy for now.
have
I
you
mean, it'll build to better things too.
have you looked around on the site at the different types of jobs that there are out there and started realizing maybe there's actually there's actually a lot of stuff that that's tempting to, like,
Yeah.
I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen like data entry jobs, and I've done some of that. Which is as simple as like one of them that I did was just as simple as taking someone's business cards and just inputting that
Right.
data into an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Super simple, like it's mindless work,
Right.
but I get to do it. I get to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something while I'm doing it. Phenomenal,
Right.
way better than working, and having to manage other people, and it's just myself. It's super nice. I recommend it if you can get into that sort of thing. Um, doesn't pay great at first. It does take time to kind of build up, but yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. And so what I've mostly been doing though is the proofreading and editing so far. In fact, I got a contract right now. I'm not going to name names or any
No.
stupid thing like that, but for the next month of someone who's doing a novel and just wants someone to proofread, not even edit. I don't have to edit, just proofreading,
And give
and
feedback.
that's paying like decently, like better than my other jobs that I've had, and it's for like a month. So
Right.
it's fantastic. Yeah, it's been great.
That was one of the things that, and I've started considering doing it again. Is I love there's narration work on there, which is awesome. If you've got studio set up, the mic and everything to do narration work. I have a book that that I narrated a couple of years, a few years back, that I did for somebody, did the voice work for it, and it's
Yeah, I
really
don't know
easy
if I have the
stuff.
voice. I don't know if I have the voice for that though.
Well, it just depends on what they're looking for. You might be surprised. So, and
Okay.
if you can fake voices too, there's all sorts of work for stuff like cartoons and YouTube videos and stuff where they just want voiceovers and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
but
fair
anyway,
enough.
there's a ton of stuff out
Because,
there, but I'm glad it's working out
yeah,
for you. It'll get
yeah,
bigger.
it really is. It's been nice.
Maybe before too long, since I have, like I said, I've got a superior rating on Upwork. I'm like one of the top tier workers. But
Yeah.
maybe we should look at putting together a small company on there because we can do that and
That would be
hire some
awesome.
people and see if we can't work something out there. Go into business for
Yeah.
ourselves, as it were.
That's what I want. That's the only thing I've ever wanted my whole life was to work for myself. And now that I'm doing it, yeah, I'm making less money doing it, but I'm making my own hours. I don't have to
Right,
like, oh, I need to be up at 5:30 in the morning.
right.
I wake up when I wake up, and then I do my work, and
Right.
then 2-3 hours, and that's it. It's
Yeah.
fucking fantastic. Yeah.
Makes a big fucking difference sometimes.
Oh yeah, and I can I can do the thing I like to do the whole
Right.
time.
Sucking
Don't have
dick.
to worry
Right.
about.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm sticking really small dicks.
Right.
Yeah.
I see Henry's in the house first.
Henry,
Uh,
what's up? I was first, yes.
Elephant Man says he thinks that we're going to avoid the elephant in the room. No, we're not going to avoid the elephant in the room. We
Not
just
at
thought
all.
we'd
Not
have a
at
little
all. Right?
lighthearted chat before we get into the doom and gloom of the
Heavy stuff. Yeah.
as Americans as a whole lose the 2020
Yeah.
election. We're losing the election, John. The
Yes, I
Americans
know.
aren't getting enough of the popular vote to win.
We've
It's going to
lost
go
every
to
election since like Woodrow Wilson, I would say. Maybe even before that. Maybe even before. That might be harsh on him alone. Yeah. We've lost most elections, I'll say.
Yeah, so yeah, the voting went off yesterday. Everything was going on last night. I mean, by the time we walking away from Edge Stream, I got on there late, right all the way up to the end. And
Yeah.
the when it's all said and done, it's there nothing was known. It was looking like Trump for a while, but now and this is something that I in reading articles, various articles today, back and forth. One of the things was expected that in for the heart of it, election night, the expectation was we were going to see an aggressive lead or a potential lead by Donald Trump
Yeah.
because the difference between the voters, most Republican voters were doing day of
In
voting
person, yeah.
versus the mail-in / absentee ballots that a lot of Democrats were opting to do.
Mhm.
And then now, as all the votes, both types are being counted, now we're getting down to a dead heat race where, I mean, as it stands right now, the latest count I've seen is it's showing Biden is at 264. He's 6 electoral votes out from taking
Yeah.
taking
It is
the
still
presidency.
it is still anybody's race,
Sure,
really, honestly.
sure.
But two things real quick. One is, I guess, two ways or two angles that you can take those media articles about the mail-in ballots, like it being a Trump victory or Trump landslide at first, and then over time it's Biden comes back because of the early voting and the absentee ballots. But so there's two ways you can look at it, and I think both are plausible. One being that it's true, right? That's one thing. One way you can look at it is that yes, that is the case. That Republicans do vote in person and on election day. That is true. That happens. Um, but another way, it's it seems like they were planning for this because they were saying that months in advance, and so it kind of seems like that was the plan from the beginning, was to get as many people to vote through mail-in ballots because they're less secure. The signatures don't need to be exact. whatever else it is. If someone is dead, it still counts, or whatever it is. Um, but what's suspicious though is that in those key states that Trump needs to win in order to win the election, it just so happens that all the votes that are coming in, all of them, and I mean 100%. I don't mean like, oh, most of them or a plurality. All of them are for Biden, and it happens to be just enough to put Biden ahead. Just enough, not like a significant amount, but exactly the amount that he needs for it to be above. It just seems very. It's either an extraordinary circumstance or an extraordinary coincidence, or it's a fraud. Those are the only two options there,
Well,
and I don't believe in extraordinary coincidences.
yeah, you know, I've thought about this overnight. I've thought about it all day today, and I have to say this. Now, first off, let me preface by saying there has already been voter fraud on both sides, right? I mean, if there's fraudulent
I know
activity,
that.
I mean, both sides are having it happen. I mean, there's been reports of things happening with Republican voters
Like
and
what?
voting
Like what?
areas. Do what?
What's an example?
Okay, and then we'll, and, and this also goes to like voter suppression. So, for instance, from a voter suppression standpoint, in Texas, one
Mm-hmm.
voting box allowed per one drop box allowed per county district, excuse me, per district, only one. So even if it's a district with, whether it's a district with 60,000 people or a district with 2.5 million people, those districts only get one ballot drop box. Now, that is, that seems to be, that, is being presented as an obvious, attempt at voter suppression, right? To make it more
But
difficult.
would that not suppress both sides of the vote?
Potentially.
I mean, actually, hang on. I think I see what you mean because cities will typically vote Democrat. So cities are going to be the ones with the higher population, obviously.
Harder to get to the polls, less
So,
Democratic votes coming in, right?
right. So I get that, but at the same time, those areas, those cities did turn blue in Texas, as we expected. We expect those areas to turn blue. So I don't think that saying that voter suppression really
I'm not.
did.
I'm just offering it up. This is an example of one of the things that they've pointed out as an attempt at voter suppression. This
I
kind of
don't
thing.
know anything about that.
Um,
I said Wyatt was in the chat, right? Maybe he has some more insight on it. I don't know.
apparent. I was reading. There was apparently the administration or via the Supreme Court had stopped some states from counting early ballots beforehand. There was an attempt to do that, so that they, if you're getting mail-in ballots, count them as soon as you get them. Start counting the ballots, get them counted. But
Yeah.
apparently there was attempts to stop them, some states, and I thought successfully, to keep them from counting ballots before election day.
Okay, but that actually makes
Now,
sense, though. That actually makes sense.
in I think it's either, was it in Pennsylvania, the in some districts they're taking the mail-in ballots. They're planning on setting aside any mail-in ballots that come in that are postmarked for Monday, Tuesday, but come in on Wednesday through Friday, this is normal in elections. Okay, this has
Yeah.
normally been a normal thing in elections,
Right. But
that
there's a
if you're
higher
getting
amount,
ballots,
higher volume.
you're getting
Yeah.
ballots for those, for those 3 days that are still postmarked by election day. But what they're doing is they're setting them aside in the expectation that there's going to be a court action. And I'm like, but wait, if they're postmarked before election day, before the 8 p.m. cutoff, why would you set them aside?
Right. So I'll counter that with other voter fraud, which would be the thousands of ballots that were found. And this is from I don't know how true this is. I haven't verified for myself, so grain of salt here, and not committing libel or anything stupid like that. This is what I've seen, not verified. That there were thousands of Trump votes that were hidden in like ditches and under rocks and shit throughout Pennsylvania, like throughout in historically red parts of Pennsylvania.
during this election?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Found
And
this
and and
morning.
and this is verified and
Like I said, I have not personally verified
got
it,
it. See, and
but
this is
that has been. It's I don't know it's so hard right now to
right.
know what's true and what's not.
See,
It's so
this is
hard to know any of that.
and this is something I was going to point out is Trump had Trump had his people poised and ready to start making
Well, we
various
were seeing
claims, like whether it
we
be
were
Eric
seeing those
Trump or Rudy
claims.
Giuliani. Do what?
We were seeing those claims though beforehand. We were seeing voter fraud before yesterday.
Sure, and that's what I was saying. There's
Yeah.
been allegations of voter fraud on both sides. You know, both at Republican voting um,
The
offices
only
as well as Democratic. I mean, it's not like this. Again, it's about what is allegation, what is being proven, what was
right.
actually fraud, or is this just smoke screen? How much of it is smoke screen? How much of it is
Well,
bullshit?
real quick, let's go to the chat and see what they're saying. Are they saying anything?
They're talking about Texas, saying that Wyatt says he thinks it was a way to reduce fraud. But I do have a difficulty with that. I understand about reducing fraud, but trying to
Yeah,
force
I
two and
understand
a
the
half
point,
million
but I
people to
don't.
one box is major.
That
Um,
is a major inconvenience for people, and it's also. I mean, I guess you don't, but you don't have to go to the drop box, right? You can just go to the post office.
Well, if the way from what I was understanding, is like
Like,
that was the only place to vote because you got to have you don't want transporting of ballots from different locations. That's the other thing where voter fraud would come in, right? Is in the
right.
transport of ballots. So
But
eliminating
you
that.
can
So
do that
one place to
anyway.
go cast a vote in the
You
district.
can drive from the city to a red area and drop it in their box, right? I
No,
mean, what's
your vote. I'm pretty sure your vote has to be counted in your district. It has to be dropped in your district in your box and
yeah,
counted
no,
there.
no. So I'm saying though that that's the same thing. What would stop someone like if you have multiple boxes, or if you can go to the post office, even
Well,
you
it's
can go to the post office. What stops you from going to your post office and then going to another county and going to that post office and putting in the ballot or
where are you
dropping it
getting
in
the
multiple
extra
boxes?
ballot? That's the thing, is getting the extra ballots.
Right. So that's my point, though, is that there's no difference between dropping it in the ballot box, the ballot, the drop off box, and going to the post office. There's no
Yes,
difference in the
yes,
accessibility of fraud.
because one's mail and one's not.
They're
Dropping
both
you're
mail.
you're you're dropping a ballot in the ballot box. You're not dropping mail in
No,
there.
no, no, not. I'm talking about the ballot box. I'm talking about the drop box, like that. Like the post boxes that are around, like the mailboxes. If you need like a, if you're too far away from a mailbox or the post office, there'll be like another
The blue box.
outgoing mailbox somewhere that you can just
Right,
drop
but
your.
no. But you can't put
That's
I'm talking about when day of voting, when you go to vote,
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay,
the
okay,
ballot
okay.
boxes. There's one ballot box per district, so
Oh,
there's
see,
only
I thought you
one
were talking
place
about
to
like
go
I
and
thought you were
click.
talking about drop boxes, like
No,
yeah, okay,
ballot
okay,
one
I get
ballot
what you're
box.
saying.
Sorry, if I said drop, I didn't. No, not like a mail
No,
drop box.
it might have been my misunderstanding.
I'm
I got
talking
you.
about a voting box. So one per district. So to where two and a half million people have to try and get to that box in that day.
Okay, yeah, that's a little fucked up. Yeah.
Right. They're also saying, who was it? Henry said Project Veritas got over 1,000 tips of voter fraud. Not surprising. I mean, we're going to be seeing this
But
constantly,
tips,
right?
and also you have to remember that tips are not the same thing as confirmed cases of
Oh,
voter fraud.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with like with Eric Trump and Giuliani coming out and making these grand claims with no evidence, nothing to back them up, that this was happening. They talked about the 130 something thousand votes in, I think it was Michigan or Wisconsin, that showed up out of nowhere. And it was easily explainable because the guy, they said, look, these calculation, these number inputs, errors in those happen all the time and get corrected throughout the election night.
Sure, but
And he
again,
said
it's
it was
very
corrected almost
suspicious.
immediately.
It's very suspicious, though,
If it was
that it
corrected,
just
it's
so
not. How
happened.
suspicious is it if it's corrected immediately and it happens all the time in every election?
Yeah, no, no, no. It happens. It's just no. It's what's suspicious is that it just so happened to be just enough to where Biden takes the lead in those states.
But they backed
It
it.
just
So,
so
but if it's
happened to be the
immediately corrected,
exact
he
amount.
doesn't have the
Whether
lead.
it was whether it was 200,000 or whether it was 350,000, he just so happened got in those states the exact amount that was corrected to flip it to him. That's what I'm saying. It just so happened to be the exact amount. And we saw the same thing in Florida. I'm making the comparison in Florida during the gubernatorial race, where DeSantis was running away with it until we magically found a bunch of Democrat votes that made it a super tight race, and Gillum almost won. That's what I'm saying. It's exactly the same tactic that's being used there, except for it's actually working this time.
Um, I don't know. This is one of those things because like listen to when I was on the stream with Ed, listen to everybody. It's just it's just, every everything pointed to, it's just assumed that there's voter fraud going to happen. Like, okay,
Yeah,
well, this state's
everyone
going
knows
to
that.
Trump
So
till they
far.
go ahead and till they whip out something to do it fraudulently. And what
Yeah.
what that's telling me is that there is a widespread conspiracy throughout the entire United States, like they've got with the election officials and everything, and engineered this to swing it away from Trump and give it to Biden.
I don't
when
think.
when
I
I
don't.
walked into this knowing this was going to be the tightest race we've seen in a long fucking time. This was going to show us exactly how
Yeah.
50-50 this country thoroughly is split.
Right, and I never thought. I know there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, it's going to be a landslide for Trump. It's going to be a landslide." I never thought that for a second. I knew, and you can go back and watch our previous episodes. I never ever thought it was going to be a landslide for Trump. I even specifically said, "I don't think it will. I think it'll be extremely close," and I agree with that, which makes voter fraud all the more easy to get away with.
Yes, yeah, and I
It's so
understand.
close that you can say, oh well, we found these extra 30,000 ballots, and that helps. But now we're talking about 150, 350,000, 200,000, whatever it is. All those votes, and 100% of them are going to Biden.
Well,
I mean, it's
all I know is
100%.
that if I
And they were looking at, I think it was Wisconsin, had a 90% voter turnout. That never happens. Most
yeah,
states are
and you're surprised that in this election, I would be shocked that anybody's surprised that in this election we
yeah,
see the largest voter turnout we have in decades.
agreed.
It doesn't
However,
surprise if you tell me 90%, it doesn't
right. It
surprise me.
wasn't that way. If it was 90% in most of the states, not even all of them, but even a plurality of states, then I could be like, all right, there's just a large turnout, but only in Wisconsin, Robert. I mean, come on. Only in one state there's 90% turnout. Only in one.
Well, I'm all I'm saying is I
And
don't
it
know.
happens to
I
be,
have to see.
one of the key states that both of them need.
Well, and let's look into it. They're going to look into it. It's not like
I
they
hope so,
haven't.
yeah.
They've already sued for a recount.
Right,
So
and we knew that. We knew that. We said that beforehand.
sure. There's going to be
before the
major
election that was
recounts.
going to happen. It's going to go to the Supreme Court like it did in 2004, or was it 2000? It was one of the George Bush ones. I think it was 2000 actually, where it's going
I
to end up going to the Supreme Court, which does unfortunately lend to the leftist narrative that uh, the Republicans wanted to put in Amy Coney Barrett immediately, so that if the election does go to the Supreme Court, it'll be a stacked court for Republicans. So it sucks like that. They're really playing it hard, and they know what's going on
you know,
better than we do, obviously.
well,
But
for the level of fraud that people are indicating that there's going to be, there's no historical there's no historical point of reference for the egregious amount of voter fraud that's being talked about that is going to go on with this election, right? There's nothing.
sure, but
Hold.
what about 2020 has been
Well, I'm just.
set by historical precedent?
But
Maybe the Spanish influenza, like
yeah. But let me
other.
finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
On top of that, you have for 4 years we've been hearing voter fraud rampant, horrible. Watch for it. Watch for it. Watch for it. Watch for it. We've been told,
Well,
look for stripes, look for stripes, look for stripes. Well, guess what? One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to start seeing stripes. I mean, then on top of it, in an election year where so much emphasis has been put on voter fraud, to attempt to do large scale fraudulent activity with the vote would seem impossibly stupid to attempt
you
to
would think
do
so.
when every
You would
vote
think
is going
so,
to be under a
but
microscope this time around.
you would think so. But I mean, look at the moves that Democrats have made that seem so stupid, and you want to believe that they're not that stupid. And I agree that they're probably not that stupid. But I mean, look at all the like I said, the gubernatorial race in Florida, right? Like we all knew what the fuck they were doing when they were finding a shitload of extra ballots, all of them for Gillum. Crazy. Now it didn't work out that time, but I can see them using that tactic again because it almost worked, and it would be much easier to make it work on a national level. And I think that both sides knew it was going to come down to the Supreme Court, or that it's going to come down to the courts in general, that everything was going to be scrutinized, that everything was going to be.
Sure. And
Um,
that's my point. If it's
and
knowing it's going to be that scrutinized, I mean, attempting to do large scale voter
no, no, no.
fraud
So
seems
that's the thing. No. It doesn't matter if there is voter fraud or not. What matters is who has the better lawyers at that point.
well.
And both sides
Well,
think they have the best
no.
lawyers.
If you can
That's
prove
the
voter
point.
fraud, that's the
That's
evidence is the
not true.
biggest thing.
No, it's not
Hold
because
on. If you're going to tell
narrative is
if you're going to tell me narrative in front of the Supreme Court is going to win over hard cold
yes,
evidence, then
yes,
I question the decision of the Supreme Court.
yes, agreed.
Okay. So as long as we're in agreement there. Now
Yeah,
now
Supreme
now
Court is bullshit.
now
Yes.
now let me ask you this. If Trump was on the path to victory last night, and even to the extent that he won, would we be hearing cry foul from people all
Yes.
over the place about voter fraud,
Yes.
but not Republicans, not people that voted for Trump? They
Okay.
wouldn't care about it
Not
then.
the vast majority of Republicans, no, because their guy won, and same on the other side, right?
Right.
Of
Trump's
course.
got everybody ready to argue if they don't
But
win.
I'm not speaking for Republicans.
I'm
I'm
speaking
not
both
speaking for.
sides.
I'm not. I said I'm not speaking for
Right.
them.
I understand that.
Right. So what I'm saying is that either way, I would be dubious of any election fraud. I don't care who it is. I mean, I know that I spend a lot of time on this channel defending Trump, but at the end of the day, I did not vote for him.
Right. But I get the sense
I'm
that
not.
if Trump were winning, we wouldn't be saying he's winning from voter fraud. But if Biden is leading, Biden's leading because of voter fraud. See, that's the problem I have.
No. See, that's very simplistic what you're doing.
But that's
That's
what it
extremely
sounds like
no,
from
no. But it's not
everything
what
I'm
it is.
hearing because people are
That's not what it
assuming
is.
there's voter
I
fraud.
mentioned Robert. I mentioned earlier about the very specific circumstances that are surrounding this.
Sure.
I'm not saying like, oh, he's just winning in a blowout and so it must all be, fraud. That's how you're making it sound.
Well, no,
No, what I'm
I'm not
saying
speaking
is
specifically to you. I'm
he's
talking
just
about the
so
narrative that's out there.
right. What I'm saying is he's just so happening to get the exact amount of votes that he needs in order to be just ahead of Trump. Not to like blow him out, but he's just enough ahead to where it might not be that suspicious because that's possible. It was a super close race, but the American people have spoken and we won, right? That's a completely different thing. It's not like, oh, everything's fraud all the time. It's that in the key states that both of them need, it just so happens that we're finding exactly the amount of votes that need to happen in order
I
for Biden to
and
win.
and I can see
That's an extreme
how the
amount of
numbers look like that.
that's an extreme amount of coincidence.
I can
An
agree with
extreme
that.
amount.
But
And I don't believe in an extreme amount of coincidence.
I don't I mean, we can make the same argument about North Carolina where Trump is eking out just enough votes to win. Just enough.
But that is also historically red. So yes, you're talking about Wisconsin and
Pennsylvania is the same way,
Michigan,
eking out just enough to be ahead in
right?
Pennsylvania.
But there's also a reason why they might flip. Why would North Carolina flip? There's a reason why those Rust Belt states
I
will
understand
flip,
why
and
they
it's because
might flip, but for it to be
why?
really close in states that Trump is winning, and it not be, it's very suspicious how he's just eking out enough. North Carolina expected to go, Pennsylvania
Same with
expected to go
Georgia.
Biden,
Same with
but when
Georgia,
it
which is
happens
historically red.
to with Biden in Michigan and Wisconsin, which are typically blue states, those are states
Right.
he should have been winning already.
He should have been
It's
winning by
suspicious
a
there,
landslide.
but when it's
He should have been
close,
winning by a landslide. Those are very Democratic states. Those are not like battleground
I
states.
understand he should have, but that doesn't mean we
All
don't
of
have.
them.
Florida was like this during Obama. This is what
Well,
Florida was
Florida
like
was
because
actually
we went
Florida.
purple during Obama.
For once, it's not Florida. That's the problem.
Well, no, I understand that, but what
By
I'm
the way,
saying,
I'm very proud of you, Florida. I'm extremely proud of
right,
Florida
but
for not fucking around
but
this time. I
but
really appreciate that. It's not to come down on me being a Jorgensen supporter, a reluctant Jorgensen supporter.
um,
That it's not happening that way.
uh,
I appreciate that,
Why it says
Florida.
this election is perfect for the mass media. He asked why the hell did PA change their law to extend the deadline for no real reason. Um,
Yes, that and the fact that they don't have to have the signatures being perfect, and I think it's Pennsylvania that it is, that the signatures, they changed it mid-election day, that the signatures now no longer have to be perfectly matching as they were before. That's another suspicious thing. Why did that sudden change? Why? Why?
because, I all I can say in regard to why things changed or were amended in how voting is done through various states is in response to the COVID pandemic, all the lockdowns that went on with that.
Well, why
This
wasn't that
changed the
changed
face of the
months ago?
voting,
Why
huh?
was it not months ago? Why was it not a month ago? Why was it not a week ago? Why was it yesterday? Why was it not? They knew. It's not like, oh, we're the COVID's going to be gone by election day, so it's fine. No, we've known for a while that this is going to go on. Why was it not changed
Well,
last week?
I don't know the
Yeah,
same reason
so,
why Republicans in charge of voting in districts in Pennsylvania are setting aside mail-in ballots that are coming in with the proper postmark. I mean, there's like I said, there's weird things happening on both sides, and I'm like, all I'm really give me let's make sure these are real votes, count every vote, and let's see where it falls out. And if there is fraud, prove it. Let's see it. Show us what happened, and then we
Yeah.
can relook at it and make a decision if the votes count for who or what. That's
See,
what
that's
it's
what
going
I'm
to come
excited
down
about.
to without any choice.
That's what I'm excited about. I want to know if there is rampant voter fraud or not. Because right now, everything I'm saying is conjecture. Everything I'm
Right.
saying is speculation. It's all we have as regular plebeian Americans is what is fed to us through the mainstream media and what people
Right.
can look for
I mean,
themselves.
I mean the
We don't have
duality
all the
is
information. We don't have all the information. That's
right.
unfortunate. We absolutely should, but we don't.
Yeah, the dualities that are going on in this are crazy. For instance, there was all the stink about having what was it? Which state was it that was called for Trump early? Arizona, or was called for Biden early in Arizona,
Yeah.
right? And there was all
Yeah.
this stink with Fox, but then turned around and Trump last night claimed Michigan was his, right? And then
Yeah.
he also claimed that we've got this. This is ours.
And it was at the time, though. Everything he said was accurate at the time that he
Right.
said it.
I even said
Yeah.
on Ed's show last night, I'm like, it's really looking like, because of Michigan and Wisconsin, it was really looking like Trump was going to go ahead and take it because of the contested
Yeah.
states. I'm going to say this, and this is kind of a little bit side topic, but I'm going to say that one thing that I think Trump did that hurt him was to cut ties with New York. He should have mended that bridge as opposed to burning it further, because that was 29 electoral votes that were given to Joe Biden on top of an already known California 55.
Right,
Those
but see, I don't know that he could have won that.
he could have
He might have. He might have. He might have been able to.
that
He
was his
very well
city,
might
and he
have.
had Giuliani. He could have mended that bridge.
Nobody likes either of them there. It's a solidly blue state, always has been. It'd be like saying, "Oh, he shouldn't have cut ties with California." It's like, dude, you have to concentrate in the
No,
places
he
that
he
you
he would
have a possibility
California's
of winning, and you
he,
don't have a possibility of winning either of those. I know a lot of Republicans were saying, and this is stupid,
no.
that either New York or California were going to flip. That was fucking stupid to say because that is not going to happen. At least not within the next like 3 election cycles. That is just not going to happen. It
Right.
was not smart. It would not be smart of him to go after either of those states.
Well,
It's much
I will
better.
say, well, I will disagree.
Pennsylvania was the right move for him. It really was. And I'm
I
telling you, and I said it last night, Pennsylvania was the move to make, and he made it, and he made it hard.
well, I don't disagree that focus on Pennsylvania was a bad move. I will say that no, going anywhere on the West Coast, and we can call it the Pacific Wall, Washington, Oregon, California. Those are no brainers. You don't need to go over there. You're not going to win those.
Yeah,
There's no, but his
100%.
history, he had history with New York.
Right. So
If
that
he
doesn't mean
could,
that
if he
people
could have
like him
found a
there.
way, if he could have found a way, I think he should have
People
pursued it.
don't like him there because Hillary is from there as well.
Sure, but he can change their opinion. They didn't like the writing that was going on there
I don't
either.
think it would
He
be
could have
worth it.
used that as a great impetus.
And he has, not while there, but he has mentioned it, and that was
Yeah.
his best bet. That would be the most he could do. I really don't think that him going for New York would help him at all.
Yeah.
I think that would be wasted breath, wasted time.
Woodchuck says our elections are not secure. Bottom line, I saw a voter fraud case that was in favor of a Republican. Granted, it was for a Congress seat and not Trump, but either way, things need to be more secure.
Right,
Uh,
or an alternative to more secure. How about we don't give a fuck who is president? How about we don't give a fuck what Congress says because they should not be able to affect our everyday life? We should give more of a fuck about who your governor is. We should give more of a fuck about who's in the U.S. Not in
sure,
the state Senate or the state House. Like we should give a fuck about those things.
sure.
Your local government more than the president. However, I understand obviously that that's not the case, and that as the politics works now, the president is extremely important. So I get it, and that's why we're talking about it and we're concentrating on it. But
Well,
I
see
want to
this.
push for a culture that does not give a fuck who is in the federal government because it doesn't matter.
Well, it does when it does as it pertains to laws that are being put into play. I mean, I really,
But again, the Congress should not give a fuck what you're doing as well, but they do, and so we can't ignore them. And I would love to be able to ignore them. I would
yeah.
absolutely love to ignore them. That would be fantastic, but we can't. So I'm sorry. Go ahead though.
No,
Sorry.
it's. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, there's a necessity. Wyatt says, "Thank God we have the Senate." But this is the problem I have
Yeah.
with Congress more than anything. It is what it's become now, and what
Right.
is instead of a checks and balances system, it has become the roadblock for the opposing party. I mean,
Right.
you know,
And that's been said out loud. I forget who said it, but it was when Obama first became president, his first term. And again, I forget who it was that said it, but it was a Republican who was saying, "Now we're moving from, you know, we're moving from the party in power." I'm paraphrasing. The party in power to an opposition party.
right.
Now, the opposition party or opposition is an exact quote, and I don't like that. That should not be the case. It should not be like, oh, well, we have an R in front of our name and we're wearing a red tie, so we need to be against whatever blue tie D says, and vice versa.
Yeah, but it just FYI,
I know that's how it is. I know that's how it
that
is.
that term opposition party, I can remember that being tossed around back in the days of
Sure.
George Bush Senior,
Sure.
and
I'm not saying it's new. I'm just saying that's when I
right.
remember that being said.
But
Yeah.
but now being recognized that way is more because it's now over the last almost every election that I can remember, it has become about getting the Senate in an opposing position to the president. Because if you can
Right.
do that, you can stop anything from so much from happening in the government.
And that's so fucking ridiculous. Now, while I'm in favor of the government not doing anything, that only goes well if they're also not spending a shitload of
Well,
money,
right.
which they're
There's
doing
a difference
anyway,
in not
regardless of
doing
who's
anything
president.
and stopping someone from doing something. Because one of those
Well, that
costs
too,
money.
yeah.
One of those
That's true.
costs money.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna we need to start wrapping this up. I'm gonna go through the chat a little bit, and we'll finish up with
Yeah,
what they're talking about. Ed says, "Okay, there's a reality to all of this. As of right now, it's not about making Biden Harris the president. It wouldn't matter if Trump had mended bridges in New York. SDNY was going to prosecute him anyway. I get that."
yeah,
He says, Woodchuck says, we all knew Jagger. It would be easy to create more protections from it, but alas, nothing was done. The Libertarian vote costing the election in Michigan. What was it he said? Oh, Wyatt said, my dad is angry at the Libertarian vote costing the election in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Sorry, Wyatt. I like you, Wyatt. I don't know your dad, but I actually had this conversation on both on Twitter and on Facebook, and I had the same comment, and that comment is cry harder.
Right.
Just cry harder. Like
He
the
does. He
fuck.
does
I don't
agree
give a
with you
fuck
that
about.
local elections matter, and I have to,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
have to give my full support to that. And look, I'm going to say it. God, I know it's a small audience that hears us saying it, but get involved. If you have the capacity and the
Yeah.
wherewithal to understand politics, get involved. Get
Yeah.
in. I don't know. I like to pretend that we can make a change by having discussions that some people
It's a
listen
nice
to,
thought.
right?
Yeah.
And,
It's a nice thought.
but
It does work from time to time, to be fair. It does work from time to time.
but
But
if
it's usually a long process that there's a lot of kicking and screaming along the way.
but if
So
but if more people had the mindset that as opposed to just spouting my views on social media, Why don't I put those into action? Why don't I attempt to make that
Yeah.
happen? So get
Well,
involved. People
it's
need to
way
get involved.
easier.
I
It's
mean,
way easier to do it on social media. I agree.
right. See, I look at
But
somebody
yeah,
like our young Wyatt there, and I'm like, all right, Wyatt, get the ball rolling. Get
yeah,
out there. The kid's got brains. I'm talking
yeah,
to
he
you,
does.
Wyatt, and I'm talking about you. You got brains and you're smart. If you know what's stopping you. So, find out what it is that's
Mhm.
holding you back from doing it, but consider doing it because it's a mucked up system to get involved in, but if enough cleaners, enough people with the mind to clean it up get involved in it, it might actually start to happen. And it's got to start at the local level because if your local politics are cleaned up, then that clean can spread into the federal situation because you can start
Yeah.
getting more hands off with them. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but more people need to get involved with it. Not the elite.
Well,
That's
see,
what
so
seems it
hang
winds
on.
up happening.
So hang on. That is a tactic that the Democrats have over the Republicans, is that they excite young people to actually do something and get involved. And that's why they've gained as much power as they have, is because they have a lot of young people who are getting involved in not only local politics, but obviously federal politics as well. So that's something that the Republicans are going to have to realize, that if you
Yeah.
want to start winning like the Democrats do, you're going to have to appeal to a younger crowd, and they have, in a way, or I should say more specifically, Trump has, in a way, gotten people excited, young people, obviously young Trump supporters, excited, young, like people who are in the culture war online have been excited, but that's not enough, right? There's not enough of them. There's a lot of, and a lot of that is social media's fault with their crackdowns on, right wing views in general. Um, but I don't know how you reach people other than how we've already done
Well,
it.
well, I was say I was just gonna say this is the fear I have is that for the Republican Party to a certain extent, if they take away from this election with an what I'm expecting to be a record numbers of voter turnout on both
Hmm.
sides, if the Republican Party takes away that creating contention drives people to vote,
Yeah,
ah, that's not a takeaway I want from them. That's not how you strengthen the Republican Party. It's it
right.
is it is looking for that new blood and getting them in there.
Right.
Because if
Exactly.
you're
What it is, it's a cold war. It's an arms race. I think is more specific. It's an arms race. It's, okay, you have this, well, we're gonna have this thing that beats that thing. And the arms race has been going on, since one dude, chiseled a stick into a spear. We've had an arms race ever since. It's just always been countering what you have, and you're countering what I have and whatnot. It's all
um,
the same thing. And same with politics, right? It's no different. And the Republicans are going to have to either stoop down to the Democrat level, or by some miracle find a way to outdo them without being unethical as Democrats are.
well, I will say
It's not
this.
going to be an easy feat. I'll tell you that right now. It's not an easy feat.
I will say that I do believe the biggest challenge that a Republican would face in trying to target a younger audience getting involved in politics, not to mention going and voting, um, is the idea that I hold that when we're younger, we're all much more liberal. So the democratic ideals,
Yes.
those liberal ideas, really speak to the younger audience. But as
Right.
once you start to have a family, kids, buy a house, your conservatism begins to kick in. And so, unfortunately, there is a smaller pool of people to pull from in the younger generations.
Yeah.
No matter what time in history you're at, the younger generations are you're just more liberal in your 20s than you are in
Yeah,
your
of course.
30s and 40s, right? Um,
I'll agree with that. I was. I
right.
mean, I'm not unique with that. Yeah, 100%. That's true.
And sad to say that the young people that are getting involved in the Republican Party at a young age are typically those that are born into some sort of wealth, families that are protecting assets, this, that, and the other from a very conservative standpoint, and they
Wait,
teach
so hold on.
conservative
So hang
structure
on.
to their children.
Because that's not necessarily true. You'll see a lot of, especially in the modern age, you'll see a lot of socialist, or people like self-proclaimed socialists who come, or like trust fund babies, or who come
Sure,
from
sure,
rich families. Most of them are that. That's why there's the whole the white liberal is
right,
like the most progressive and the most socialist person
right,
because they grew up with everything already and have never had to work for anything, so they're not pushing for anything for themselves, right? There's no ambition there to further themselves. So, in order to not be aimless, in order to have some sort of meaning, they need to, in air quotes, fight for others, right? They think they're doing a good thing, and I honestly believe that they think they're doing. I don't think they're evil, because I think evil has to do with intent. I don't think that they're evil because they think they're doing the right thing.
right. Well, the
And it's unfortunately that, yeah, socialism resonates with people because they're like, especially those people, because they're like, oh well, I've had everything handed to me. Why shouldn't everyone else? That's bullshit. That there are actually poor people, even though my dad or my mom or whatever fucking combination of parents you want to have worked their asses off their whole lives, but they don't see that when
right,
they're growing up, right? All they see is the result of that hard work. They don't
right,
see the actual hard work going into it. They see the result of that. And they
right.
say, well, I mean, I grew up with this. Why shouldn't everyone else? And that makes sense at that age.
I can see that point. I would say that, in my opinion, I think a lot of those trust fund babies that don't follow the Republican mindset of their conservative parents that have a lot of money, those are the ones that are bucking that system that they grew up in and turn to that
Yeah,
socialist that mindset. But the ones that aren't doing that, those are the ones that are getting into politics. Those are the ones that are
yeah.
they're actively thinking about seeking office because their parents have taught them that Republican mindset and that responsibility to conserve wealth and to consolidate power and move into government to control
Well,
how
see,
that happens.
I think that's the difference between it's a mindset difference between the two. Like if one who becomes a socialist because their parents have wealth, or one who becomes a conservative because their parents have wealth. There's a distinct difference in outlooks with them, right? The socialist one will want to rebel against their parents and say, "You haven't
Right.
earned that." Because all they see is when the parent comes home and he just sits on the couch and doesn't do anything
They don't see what it took to get there.
doesn't see what it took to get there. Whereas the other side, the conservative side, they see, oh well, my father worked his ass off to get where he's at now,
Right.
and so I want to preserve that ability for others to do that. Right? There's a distinct difference in outlook,
Right. Oh
but
yeah.
they come from this exact same, scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. So I don't know. This is the challenge that the Republican Party faces in getting young blood into the party. And but when
Yes,
it's all
yeah,
said and done, I do believe the Republican Party is not suited for the younger audience. The
yeah,
conservative
I
mindset
agree with
is
that.
not conducive to a younger audience,
I agree with that. Yeah.
and it really is rare that it speaks to the values of a young person unless that young person has something to protect in their life, i.e.,
Right.
family wealth, personal wealth, business,
Right.
whatever the case may be, that they've done very aggressively and at a
Yeah,
young
exactly.
age.
The socialist has nothing to lose. That's why they're
Right.
willing to take extreme action. Whereas a conservative does have a lot to lose, so they don't.
Yeah.
It's a very simple, yeah,
Yeah.
very simple
Well, all I got to say is Ivanka 2024. But anyway.
thing. Well, real quick, is there anything else in the chat that we should address?
They've Ron Helton has shown up. He's hanging out. Wyatt says there are people I know that want to see AOC run in 2024 for president, and no, not as a joke. Nephilim Ninja showed up. Says definitely play well to
Yeah,
the immature more than just youth.
yeah.
When speaking of
That's what I was
Democrats,
saying
yeah.
too. Yeah,
I mean, and but again, I mean, it's just that kind of thing. It's like you could take it, you could simplify it all the way down to just legalizing weed. I mean, we want critical thinkers in this country. We want their youth to be critical thinkers. And
hmm
they are, and they look at something from a conservative standpoint where the federal government says, no, we're not going to legalize this, et cetera. We're still, and they look at the reasons why it isn't and how it's scheduled and all the manipulation that's gone on with it, as a critical thinker. And they're like, why, this is just
yeah.
one issue that conservatives really are damned by.
I agree with that in the recent past. However, nowadays, I think if you ask a conservative what they think, they're going to go with the libertarian answer, which is I don't like it, but that shouldn't be up to the government to decide for the most part, right? Obviously, there'll be
Right. And
conservatives.
I agree with that, but that's not the
I think you're seeing a turn though in conservatism that's going more towards the drug war is a piece of shit and a failure, so let's just end it.
Yeah, but we've been
Well,
we've been we've been
it's
thinking there was
more of
a
that.
I've been feeling like there's a turn coming for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 elections, as we've slowly started to slide into this, 2/3 of the country legalizing it. But it still has yet to happen, and that is where conservatives need to really start looking at things and like how,
Right,
not just that issue, but other issues where are we too conservative to speak to the most influential generations of our time?
right. So here's the argument: if you want to if you want to get a conservative on your side for weed or any other drug, even, but mostly for weed. Let's stick with weed. Is okay. Look at how much the drug war has cost this country since its inception, and look at how much weed use, especially, has gone down. It hasn't. It's actually gone up.
Right.
It's usage. You're throwing good money after bad. Why are we going to continue this when I thought we were fiscal conservatives? Right? We don't want to spend money uselessly like this. Why don't we do it this way and explain how whatever regulations you're okay with. Because I know we have a lot of non-libertarians who listen to a lot of conservatives. Just say, hey, look, do it this way, and it'll cost us a lot less money, and we can put that money in things that you like,
Right.
or we can put it wherever it goes,
Right.
right? That's the way to approach a conservative about weed. Don't be like, oh well, it makes me feel good, man, and it doesn't
Right.
do anything. It doesn't actually harm you. That's
Well,
not going to affect them. Put it in a money way with
right.
them, and
Well,
they will be more likely to be amenable to it.
all right. Well, I'm gonna move to wrapping this up real quick. I will
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah.
just in rebuttal to what you said, the only problem I have with conservatives is after years of compounding evidence to the contrary, whether it be industrial use, which just finally we can grow hemp again in this country, to the
It's
medicinal
so
use,
useful back in the
to
day. Yeah,
the fiscal windfall for the federal government to legalize it. I mean, if
yeah,
they can't look back to prohibition, the removal of prohibition, and look at how it saved the economy in this country, if
right.
they can't look to that as a model to get off their asses and say,
Then you
let's
blame
just
the
be done
conservative.
with it, it's taken too long. They're just idiots at this point.
Right. Then you're not a conservative, you're an authoritarian, and those are
Right.
two different things. Conservatives aren't necessarily authoritarian, although sometimes they are. But then you can get into an argument about authoritarianism.
Right.
A totally different thing. But
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. So let's wrap this up, though. I know you're
All
probably
right. So,
wrapping.
much love to everybody that's shown up in the chat tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
John, if you could you let these folks know where they can find us and all that
Yes.
stuff down below?
Yes, down in the description. We've got all of our links and stuff. We've got our Twitter at the Gen Gap P. If you're not following us already, fuck's wrong with you? Follow us. Not a big deal. I shit post constantly. I mean, just do it. Uh, Secondly, we've got our Discord down there. Discord's another great place to go. A lot of shit posting there. You want to pick up some memes, tons of them there. You want to have conversations with like-minded people, awesome. You want to argue with people, even better. You can go there. Fucking fantastic. You won't be kicked out for arguing with people. All good. We've got our subscribe star as well down there. So if you want to support us, if you have a passing affection for us, there's a bunch of perks down there that you can see, and you can figure out which one's best for you and sign up for that one. And then we've got freedomscoop.com as well, which is our affiliate group. So you can find all of our stuff there, as well as J. Edgar's stuff. You can find Stephen Ignoramus over there. You can find Wyatt from Breakdown with Birkenhoff over there. You can find Mr. RRC, Already Conservative. He's over there as well. And the Freckles and Brick Show. So make sure you go and check those out. And then while you're over there, you can buy our merch. We got t-shirts and we got mugs. And if you put the code GenGap in at checkout, you can get 15% off your purchase. So make sure you do that. It's pretty cool. I like the shirts at least. And the mugs.
Good shirts. All right, folks, we appreciate everybody that stopped by and have a chat with us tonight, listen to our bullshit. As it stands right now, we have no idea. We're leaders. If you did not take the time to watch Idiocracy today, how dare you? I think today is it should be dubbed Idiocracy Day, where we watched that movie after our elections just to give us a reality check. But anyway, John and I are going to be back on Friday. We'll be back at 8:30 p.m. For our regular episode, and then of course we'll be back again next Wednesday for another rousing episode of Shooting the Shit at 9:30. Both of those times are Eastern time, the one and only true time zone, the one that matters. For everyone that's here tonight, if you haven't hit the like button, please make sure and do that. All the likes we can get are always fun. If you haven't subscribed to us, hit the subscribe button. Outside of that, I hope you have a wonderful night. Just I don't know. I don't know how it's going to turn out. It's going to be another week before we know anything.
Stay safe out there, guys.
Yeah, whatever forestalls the crazy, I'm good with it. But anyway, till then, stay safe out there and have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Yeah. See you guys.